Three, two, one. Hey everybody, this is CJ,
And this is Nick.
and we are actually here with a pretty interesting video. It's a long time coming because we actually started talking about making this like 2 hours before we did, but some really interesting stuff just dropped on sort of like the internet version of Mos Eisley Cantina 4chan. Really kind of cool stuff that might actually be some spoilery, meaty details about Avengers: Age of Ultron. I won't go into specifics with the thread. We'll post it in the comments below if you want to check it out. But we've selected some really kind of cool stuff here to talk about. So Nick, any thoughts before we begin?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely heavy spoilers for just the future of the MCU also. They talk about Civil War, Thor 3, Doctor Strange, so if you guys don't want to know specifics, then you probably want to skip this one.
Remember, there's a good chance this is all just really good fan fiction. We now know that the Star Wars plot details might have been fan fiction. Probably were. But so this one actually, there's some stuff in here that I really kind of think is solid. So let's just dive right into it. So the first point that we're going to talk about, Nova as a character is planned for a very minor first appearance in Guardians 2. He will play a more prominent role in Infinity War Part 2. Now this, I honestly have some trouble believing this because it flies right into the face of everything we've heard up until this point. So Nick, do you have any thoughts on this?
Personally, I think Nova's really cool, especially the Richard Rider version of him, which I'm hoping they'll use, but part of me thinks it'll be the newer one. But yeah, I mean, it sort of makes sense, but at the same time, James Gunn has said like he's not in the movie. People have been like, no, he's probably not going to show up anytime soon. But in the realm of plausibility, it would make sense for him to be in Infinity War Part 2.
True. Shout out to our boy Beyonder from Comic Book Bros on Twitter, and they also have a YouTube channel, so go check them out. But he actually did just talk to James Gunn about this, like over Twitter, when James Gunn was doing a Q&A, and he asked him if he hated Richard Rider, and he said no. Shockingly. All right, so the second point. Well, this is actually, in his words, it would ruin the surprises if I described the cool scenes, wouldn't it? Also, it's in the planning stages, but yes, they do have a lot of spectacular scenes planned out. Is this... Nick, remind me again, this is about the Civil War fight scenes, correct?
I think it's Age of Ultron actually. He was talking about someone was asking him about Age of Ultron, what the scene's like and stuff, and he didn't want to go in depth to it because he didn't want to spoil anything like that. But
The spoiler thread that never spoiled anything. Alright, moving on. Thor's role in Age of Ultron differs in the sense that we delve more into his intellectual side rather than the whole bronze aspect of his previous appearances. Barton's gear has also been significantly upgraded, and most of the new era stunts were performed by Jeremy himself, which is applaudable. Alright, this I'm going to dissect for you guys a little bit here. Thor's role. This is something that Hemsworth had mentioned before in an interview, that Thor was actually much more intellectual in this one, or he hinted at that, because Thor kind of sees the bigger picture of what's going on, and that was a big part of his role in the movie. Barton's gear being upgraded, we kind of saw the speed loader in that most recent trailer. The stunts by Jeremy himself, I don't think we've actually seen that mentioned before, so that would be a big piece of news. But this is kind of interesting. I would love to see more depth from Thor's character.
yeah, I mean, we sort of got the seeds of that in the first Thor movie when he was telling Jane about how the science and all that, the tree
Yeah.
works and
I mean,
stuff.
he's not dumb. He's a warrior, but I mean, he's not, an idiot.
Yeah.
So moving on, the second thing. Let's just say that Hulk and Banner find themselves stuck in a very different situation and environment at the end of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, so
What
someone
does
was
this-
asking him about like where they're at and basically what Hulk's role will be in the future. So
It's either going to be space or they're going to be in separate bodies. Dun, dun, dun. Either could be the case, could be both. The thing with Planet Hulk is, it's possible. I just don't, and it's been rumored for forever. Like, you can go back and find like fake Phase 3 casting announcements with Planet Hulk going back to like 2 years ago. But it's one of those things that just, all in all, really kind of, just looking at the slate they have, and of course subject to change for sure, but it just doesn't make sense going up with their existing stuff. So to what this could be, I think I would wait a little more plausibly to somehow they get separated, although that would take a big twist. Do you
yeah,
have
I
any
don't
thoughts?
I mean just the idea of Hulk going to space is really cool and plus it'll set up for his character. I mean, we see that he's turning more savage in this one, or at least from what we've seen in the trailers. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, in the comics, I believe that Hulk was with the Guardians recently, so maybe.
I know Iron Man was, but
Yeah.
now that's like 3 years ago. Okay, so regarding Black Panther's role in Civil War, he says Panther starts off primarily in a political role. His costumed appearance comes in later in Civil War. So this is interesting, of course, because the degree to which Black Panther is going to be in the movie has been questioned by many after the inclusion of Spider-Man. So what's going to happen with Black Panther? That's been the question on many people's minds. It makes sense that he'd start off political, seeing as he's the king of a nation. His costumed appearance comes in later in Civil War. Nick, any thoughts?
It seems like they're gonna start Black Panther off in just making him the king of Wakanda. I mean, maybe he's not the king at this point. I don't know, because he's getting a solo movie. Maybe they'll deal with that in that film. But it seems like he's just gonna be the wise guy in the middle, just trying to keep a neutral ground, and then he'll show up in costume later on for like the final battle, I guess. So
it would definitely make sense if he was just kind of the middle ground, like he's not actually taking sides. He's like, you're both idiots.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he kind of did that in the presentation last October when they were like, oh, choose a side, and he's like, Black Panther's his own guy. So
yeah, which makes sense because Wakanda has always been its own nation, very respectable. All right. So this is something we already know. Wanda makes the Avengers see various visions, some of the past, some of the future, and some of alternate realities, although that guy didn't say it. Steve and Clint are among those who see the past, whereas Tony sees the future. It's from what I'm understanding, Steve sees, I guess this is also from like a previous post, Steve sees how the world would have been if Red Skull had won. Clint sees like the death of his family, and Tony sees the Avengers dead by Thanos' hand. So
maybe it could be Ultron's hand too, because I think in one of the trailers we got to see that broken shield, and I think that was like a dream sequence or something. So
from what I've understood, that is what Scarlet Witch showed him. But however, the San Diego Comic-Con trailer differed a little bit from what we've been told, or from what we saw in that first trailer, and it actually panned farther upwards, and it was apparently like a landscape set under stars. So it makes sense that would the way it was described reminded me of like Thanos's kind of domain in Guardians and also in the Avengers. So I think it could have definitely been like something to do with Thanos in that case. But the broken shield is something we're seeing a lot in kind of references to Age of Ultron.
It's interesting too that they mentioned that Clint Barton sees the past of his family's death, because that was in the Ultimates, I think, right?
Yep, I believe so. And also, it's really interesting that they mentioned Black Widow, who wasn't in this quote. Apparently, she sees what her life would have been like if she wasn't kind of like abducted by the KGB. Whether that's accurate or not, I think it would have been, it's a really cool thing to explore.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's just, my theory had always been like she's seeing flashbacks to the Black Widow program, the kind of program that we saw in Agent Carter.
Yeah, it definitely seems like we're gonna get a lot of that, of her backstory in this movie for sure, from the trailers.
Great. All right, so this, and I quote, he's being slated for Civil War. We do have a lot of little nods to fans, as per our other movies, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled. Do you know what this was in relation to, Nick?
Yeah, someone asked him if Rhodey would survive Age of Ultron.
Yes.
So he said yes, he's definitely in Civil War. And he's gonna be on Iron Man's side, obviously, but...
Believe it or not, a lot like El Mayimbe, I put a little bit of stock in what Roger Wardell says. I just think Roger Wardell is getting like every single crazy boardroom idea that somebody comes up with. Like, what if Mandarin was a techno demon, man? Like, what if he wasn't even a dude? What if he was like just this thing that was occupying host bodies? Like, that's kind of the shit that Roger Wardell describes. It sounds like somebody pitched that shit, even if it got canned. That's the shit he talks about. But in this, he actually called this a long time ago that at the end of Age of Ultron, we would have two different Avengers teams. We would have the East Coast and West Coast. And on the West Coast, it would be Cap and his kind of group. But also, I think it would be like Cap and Rhodey, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and the Vision. Whereas the other group would be, basically Tony and the rest of the original Avengers. So this makes sense that Rhodey... So it's been long rumored that apparently Rhodey was going to be in Civil War, which makes the fact that he might die, as people are suggesting, a little kind of ludicrous to me. But.
Yeah. So
the next one, the events of Age of Ultron lead directly to Civil War. This gets
Pretty.
our Yodoi award for the evening. We know this.
Yeah.
Uh, then she will return in Civil War, and yes, she will play a larger role than in Winter Soldier. This is in regards to
Agent 13 or Sharon
Agent
Carter.
13. Sharon Carter, whatever her name was.
Shannon.
Shannon Carter.
Sharon
Sharon.
Carter.
Um, God, I'm trying to remember the actress's name now.
Emily Van Camp
Emily Van Camp is the name.
from what was that show? Revenge, I think.
Yes. Also Everwood, which is underrated. Chris Pratt, also in Everwood. He was her older brother. But apparently she's going to be in Civil War. She's going to have a much bigger role than in Winter Soldier, which is good because she was hyped up as this really big part of Winter Soldier, and then she was barely in it at all.
And it makes sense too because in the comics, actually, spoiler alert, if you haven't read this arc of Brubaker's Cap, she actually kills Captain America. So,
Dun
spoilers.
dun dun. And then next, yes, mainly in Infinity War Part 2, they have more of a background role in Part 1 and move to the foreground in Part 2. I believe this is Guardians of the Galaxy, yes?
Yeah, Guardians reference.
Yep,
Yeah.
this is kind of a big thing because the big rumor was that none of the current Avengers are going to be in Infinity War Part 1. It's going to be an entirely new Avengers team of, Doc Strange, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Vision, all those kind of newfangled fancy folks, and then all of the original guys would come back for Part 2 with the new Avengers and the Guardians. Just be one big happy family. But all the trippiness. All right, Ant-Man's role is to be the small guy amongst all big guys, no pun intended. This is a close runner-up for our Yodoi Award.
It's like, well, duh.
Ant-Man is the small guy. I'm sure. I'm sure he is the small guy. Not sure what that is. There any more like that you can remember off the top of your head that was a reference to, or?
Not that I know of. I mean, I just know the guy that was apparently posting this. He said he worked at Marvel. He was like, "Yeah, Ant-Man's gonna be really good. We're excited to see what people will think of him." So,
True.
pretty interesting.
The small guy amongst all the big guys.
Oh, also, apparently, his post-credit scene will set up Civil War. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And his post-credit scene will set up his role in Civil War, apparently.
Yeah, Scott Lang. Yeah.
Yep. So yes, Surtur will indeed be in Thor Ragnarok. Dormammu will not be appearing in Doctor Strange, but there will be references building up to his eventual appearance. Now, this kind of ties into, well, one, the basic, not exactly a close runner-up for the Yodoi Award in Surtur, but it's just if you know the Thor Ragnarok storyline, you know Ragnarok in general from the comics, Surtur is a big part of that, and it makes sense. Surtur being probably Thor's greatest enemy, no offense to Loki, Surtur would have to be part of that.
Yeah, I think
Dormammu
a
not
lot of
appearing-
people wanted Surtur to be in there too. Definitely.
Yep.
So.
Dormammu not appearing in Doctor Strange, but being referenced and building up to it, it ties back to the casting rumors that came out this week, where it kind of was revealed. I guess if we're calling that revealed, which I kind of I hope it is, because all that casting in my mind is perfect. Then Dormammu is kind of like Thanos in Avengers 1 or maybe Guardians. Like, he's there for like one scene. Like, you see him, he's the big bad, but he's going to be coming later. All right. This is the next one. Truth be told, for every movie we've done so far, we generally have lots of unused ideas or concept that we keep and use in future movies if possible. This kind of just speaks to the Marvel thing in general. So maybe one day, Roger Wardell, we will see the Techno Demon Mandarin.
Well, that was the only reason the guy said that was because someone asked him why was the Hawkeye scene cut from Winter Soldier and what exactly was going to happen in it and stuff, and will it be used in Civil War? And he was basically like, yeah, probably.
Maybe. All right. Future plans for Strucker. Now, this was in reference to the fact that earlier in the thread, somebody was like, "Oh, Strucker's gonna like bite it. Strucker's gonna die, dude." I'm not sure if it's like 100% accurate or not, but he was like, "No, there are future plans for Strucker because Strucker did sign a contract." But it'll be really interesting to see like the Hydra balance of power. Like, what does Strucker do versus what Baron Zemo does?
Yeah, I believe the actor signed on for 3 movies, so he'll probably be in Civil War, maybe. I mean, with
it makes
Zemo
sense.
and all that.
Zemo's great. On whether Spider-Man would have an origin or not, no Spidey origin. 3 simple words. No Spidey origin.
Yeah, apparently the guy said that it would be a pre-credits flashback origin.
It's essentially like the Incredible Hulk. Think
Yeah.
that, like how they explain like the getting bit by a spider, and then his hand swells up to the size of a balloon, and he wakes up with muscles, and he doesn't need glasses anymore. So essentially, it's kind of like puberty on steroids.
Yeah.
But no, okay. So the next one, Vision not in Civil War. This is interesting because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, he clarified and said that Vision himself won't be in Civil War, but Paul Bettany will. So I guess Jarvis. I don't know. I don't know
When
how
I
that's
said
gonna
that
work.
didn't make sense, this makes even less sense.
Yeah, exactly. So
Like Paul
I don't
Bettany
know.
will be in Civil War as Jarvis.
Yeah, he didn't like being Vision anymore, so he went back to Jarvis.
Iron Man still has his like futuristic version of Siri. But I mean, it's just like, why would you go into this? Like, because Vision has been hyped so much. Like, they waited for the third trailer to reveal him because they knew we wanted to see him. And it's like, why would you wait for that? And then just kind of be like, nope, you're not in Civil War. You can come back in Infinity War, though. Like, we left you on all night. And so we had to.
Maybe he dies. I don't know.
Exactly. We had to plug you back in. And you're charging up right now. But you're going to be ready for Thanos, though. Stupid Apple products, man. Run out of battery too soon. Alright, so Daredevil and Defenders likely show up in Civil War. Now this I do not believe. This is one of the things that makes me call bullshit on the whole thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Can I go into my reasoning?
Sure.
Alright. Daredevil will have just aired in April. As we know, Civil War is filming right now, actually, if you didn't know that. It starts filming this month.
Yeah.
And it's going to be filming for at least 3 months, so probably until June or July, which is really why that's the big reason why I don't think they're showing anything at SDCC, is just because they're not really going to have anything ready. They could if they wanted to, but I just don't think they want to go out of their way, because it's like the Marvel brand is big enough. But Daredevil's done. Jessica Jones is probably going to be finished filming in the next like month or so. Luke Cage doesn't film until probably late summer. And then, because Jessica Jones doesn't come out till this fall. If Luke Cage films like this summer, even still, like that would be 3 of them. They have to get all 4 of these guys out. Like they have to film all 4 of these guys. These guys have to be established before they're in Civil War. The Defenders doesn't make sense, because if you look at the release schedule, Daredevil in April, Jessica Jones in like December maybe, Luke Cage in probably April again, and then Iron Fist in December. And then you've overshot Civil War by like half a year.
Yeah, well, if anything, we can get like a reference to them or something, or like a
I mean, you
news
could,
clip
like,
of them,
it's
the
like-
Daredevil or something.
Nick Cage is like, or Nick Cage, Nick
Nick
Fury.
Cage.
Nick
No,
Cage
David
shows up.
Hasselhoff Fury.
David Hasselhoff Fury shows up and he's like, there's this cool superhero team operating in Hell's Kitchen called the Defenders. Like, you're inspiring a movement, Avengers. Some stupid bullshit like that. But I mean, it's just, this is something that doesn't make sense to me, given the timeline, the production timeline that we've got. Like, sure, maybe we get like a Doctor Strange reference from Jasper Sitwell, who comes back to like zombie Jasper Sitwell, is charging the field and is like, Defenders. Like, maybe that's, what we get, but alright. He was asked something about whether the Yellow Jacket suit will survive the Ant-Man movie. Any specifics there, Nick?
Not that I know of. He just said, someone asked him about Corey Stoll and how Yellow Jacket is, and he was like, yeah, he's really cool, and the suit does survive. So I don't know. That's not saying that his character, Darren Cross, survives, but the suit will survive, so that's
Maybe
kind
for
of
Hank Pym
interesting.
to take over. Dun, dun, dun. But, because of course everybody remembers Hank Pym was Yellow Jacket for a long
Well,
time.
apparently the guy said that Michael Douglas has signed on for 3 movies, and Paul Rudd signed on for 5, so
Good.
I don't
Love
know.
Paul Rudd. Love Paul Rudd. Star-Lord will receive a new costume, and he later went on to say that he's working on the new costume right now. Or they're working on that right now.
Yeah.
Which is big.
Hopefully
Star-Lord,
he
like,
has the helmet, too.
like, it depends, because are they going to do, like... Because everyone was like, oh, it's this weird take on the Guardians costumes they're doing. Are they going to go to, like, what is it, the DNA run?
Yeah, the DNA run.
Could they go to the deal like the classic suits?
I mean, they kind of had suits at the end of the movie when they were at the.
Like the Nova Corps, they just changed the colors.
Well, I thought they were the Ravager suits, right? They were red.
They were red leather.
Yeah, and it had the Guardian's emblem on it. So I mean, just do that. Just give him the helmet or something. I don't know.
True, we could do that. And this kind of is followed by Guardians tie the cosmic universe together. Aw, they just bring it all together. Which makes sense, seeing as they were the first part of this cosmic universe, that they would kind of wrap it all up. But they're also
James Gunn is like, Guardians is not a prequel to Infinity War, which is like, what?
James Gunn, he's coming down with the Kanye-itis. Kanye-bola.
It's like, no, we don't need the Avengers.
He's like, yeah, we're big enough on our own now, to which Marvel is going to Edgar Wright him. It's going to be like the French Revolution of directors. It's like Marvel's like, we made you famous, bitch. And then guillotine. And then singing Frenchman, played by Hugh Jackman. I really like the Les Mis movie. That's my admittance. But, oh well. Okay, so that about wraps it up for all the weird predictions. Nick, any final thoughts here?
A lot of it sounds cool, but like you said, we don't know if it's real or not. So
I'm going to tell you right now, flip a coin. Flip a coin, and if it lands up heads, it's not true. If it lands up tails, it's true. It's literally, it's awesome. There's a good chance that this person put together a delightful fan fiction theory based on what we already knew. There's also a good chance that he actually is a Marvel person and that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
There's also a good chance that it's 4chan, so who the fuck knows?
If anything, some of it could be true, but...
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is like even stuff we think we've heard that we already know, like, oh, Vision might be in Civil War, that could be completely false. Or, you know, hey, Guardians are actually going to be in Infinity War. That could be false too. I mean, granted, you gotta assume, like, they're gonna be, but... It's like the universal threat that Thanos is, and the Guardians are like, nah, fuck it, we're gonna sit this one out. You guys got this. I mean, you got a god, so good luck. Godspeed. We'll make sandwiches, and we'll have orange slices at halftime, and Capri Suns at the end of the game. But, so yeah, I think that about wraps it up. Like, my thoughts are, like I said, flip a coin, and I don't know.
There you go.
Roll a dice. That's, you know, how accurate this might be. But I mean, it's an intriguing thought. So, you know,
Yeah.
we won't know for sure. This is our insurance disclaimer. The Hybrid Network would like us to remind you that we actually do not know anything, and you know, we won't know anything for sure until the movies comes out.
I mean, from what I know and what I've heard, we're gonna learn a lot of what will happen in Phase 3 through Avengers 2. So we're probably gonna find out if any of this is true in the next few weeks here. So
Filmmakers have been waiting for years for a boon like Scarlet Witch's mind powers. We can show you the future. Which begs the question, how does she know about Thanos to show it to... Maybe Ultron told her. It was a nice bedtime story. Go the fuck to sleep, because Thanos is out there. But, alright. Which, speaking of, that's like one of my biggest questions, is how does Ultron recruit Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver? But that's a question that's going to be answered.
You gotta read the prequel comic.
I have not.
It didn't say anything.
Oh, it didn't? Well, then I'm not going to. So... I'm gonna go cough up a lung. I guess that about wraps it up here from us. So signing off, this is CJ.
And this is Nick.
And we'll see you next time.